Hey, welcome to Entrepreneur Encounters, the show focused on small business owners, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and innovators just like us. Because our guests are just a little bit ahead of us on the entrepreneurial journey, we can learn insights and strategies on how to grow our businesses based on their struggles, their stories, and their successes. I'm your host, Brent Halfwasson, Milwaukee Small Business Coach, and I want to transform your hard work into hard cash. You see, the truth is, there are no self-made entrepreneurs or business owners, only amazing individuals who choose to reach out and form a community of support that makes them successful. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. In today's interview, I speak with Kenge, small business owner and founder of Connect Business Consulting. During our interview, Kenge emphasizes the essence of entrepreneurship by starting small, investing in herself, and building from the ground up with the resources she had available. By relying on friends and connections she made throughout her whole life, she found opportunities for herself and her business. We originally recorded this episode in full in 2021. Since that time, Kenge has continued to use her project management skills and personal connections, not only to build a successful business, but also use those skills to help other entrepreneurs and small business owners use project and process management skills to make their businesses grow. Let's listen as she describes how she got started.
I started small. I think that's the key too, is like I didn't go and buy a brick and mortar right away. I didn't buy a lot of equipment. I would just work out of my house. I used the money that I made on projects and then reinvested in myself. And I think that's one thing that I learned is, I didn't need a big website right away. I just started passing out business cards. I actually printed those myself. And then, social media and the network that I had and just had coffee with people and asked, what problems did they have and how I could help them. And then from there, it grew. So that was, I think, one of the biggest things is just don't feel like you have to have all this money, all this capital right away. Just start small and use resources that you have.
I think we just heard from Kenge there. One of the most important things I would love every entrepreneur to take away from this story. Kenge started with what she had. Use what you have. If of the thousands of entrepreneurs that I've interacted with, so many people have come to talk to me, essentially said, I need a briefcase of money. Guess what? There is no briefcase of money waiting out there for you. You've got to use what you have. If you've got a laptop computer and a printer at home, guess what? That's what you're going to start with. We don't have buckets of money sitting around, so we have to focus on starting small. If you don't need a 10-page amazing website, maybe you start with no website. Look, at the end of the day, there are two criteria that you need to get in business. You need a product or service that you can sell. You need someone who can buy it. Everything else can wait. That doesn't mean that someday you're not going to have the amazing website. That doesn't mean that someday you're not going to have the build out that you need. But start with the very minimum. It's that concept of the minimum viable product. What is the very least we need in order to be successful? And Kenge typified that with not only how she started, but how she continued to iterate. It was only with what she had, she made it work, and she was able to leverage the people she knew in order to make it more powerful. Let me tell you, Kenge's such an inspiration. Let's hear about how she went about identifying her opportunity by figuring out the problem that she was solving.
One thing I did learn just from project management is how to be agile and how to pivot. And I started out thinking, you know what, I'm going to do traditional project management. I started, working with a couple of smaller startups. And then I was like, maybe this isn't my niche and it's okay. You just say, okay, you know what? I started off in one direction, but let me see where I can make the most benefit. So I talked to some friends one of my friends, she was actually Joanne Sabir, who's the owner of Sherman Phoenix and a co-developer. And she's like, you know what? I could use some help in operations. I'm like, great. So started out small, got in when I fit in. And then from there, it grew from operations. And then she had some connections in some larger corporations. They were developing programs. I got involved with those. So I think too is as entrepreneurs, sometimes we think we know what we're supposed to do, and we try to have a certain mindset or a certain goal that we think we need. But I think by I'm meeting with people, I met with a lot of different people. I met with venture capitalists that I knew. I met with small business owners that I knew just to see what the problem was. And then I found my niche was working with corporations to implement their community initiatives and partnering with the community organizations. So that's really where I found my niche. And then from there, once you get a couple clients, you get name recognition, then you start to gain momentum. What can you do? Don't get defeated if, one particular project or program or initiative doesn't work. Then you look at, okay, well, what can we do? And then from there, build on.
All right. Here, Kenji talks about two of the concepts that I think are absolutely essential. They may even define entrepreneurship. She mentioned the concept of agile, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and also the willingness to pivot or change or not be tied into what we have. So, agile, for those of you who don't know, is taking a really complex process, breaking it down into the smallest possible chunk and being willing to be flexible around all those pieces. Now, the funny part is, and I came out of a corporate background as well, entrepreneurs, we don't view the world, generally speaking, in the most complicated thing we can possibly imagine. We don't have the resources, time, or energy to do that. I think entrepreneurs, by instinct, focus on the world of agile because we got to break it down to the small chunks and figure out what we can do. If there's one phrase I want you to take away from that segment of the interview, it's what you can do. All right, we've heard the word pivot. Some of us endlessly heard the word pivot, but let me focus on where I think Kenji was emphasizing that you can take away with your business. We have an idea, we have a concept, we have a product, we think people are going to love it, and we want to run out there and just go do the thing without actually talking to potential customers. If you go back and re-listen to that segment Kenji put out, she talked to all sorts of interested parties. She talked to venture capitalists, she talked to friends, she talked to other people in business so that she could figure out what problem is out there to solve. Your product or service is not out there to be a widget. It is out there to solve a problem. People buy because they have a problem that needs to be solved. And if you don't understand the problem you're solving, it is creating a gap between how you talk about what you do, how you market what you do, how you sell what you do, and ultimately people being able to understand how they actually need it for their life. So when you feel stuck next time, let's all learn from Kenji by asking ourselves, what can I do? Don't limit yourself by what you can't do. Look, I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle because they don't have a lot of money. We already talked about the briefcase of money. They don't have a lot of capital for startup. How are they supposed to get everything up and running, do the marketing that they want to do, build out maybe the product framework that they want to have if they don't have a lot of money to do it? Let's see what Kenji did as she built her business.
I haven't really spent a lot of money on advertising, and a lot of it, even my website was trade. So I worked with a small business initially who needed some project management support. And in return, they said they'd build my website for free. So I think a lot of that too is as an entrepreneur, work together as a group, find people who have services that they can use and you can borrow your services. And it's a way to get further faster. And that's what I did. And from there, just continue on that road.
I love that. I call it trade and barter. Look, there are some things we can do, we can help other businesses with when we're starting out. There may be some things we need. We don't have the money to be able to write a check to do it. So offer your services to someone else in a trade is one option. Now I'm going to put some caveats down because there's some things here that don't work. Sometimes when you're not issuing an actual payment to someone, it is difficult to get high up on their priority list. So scope it down small. Don't ask someone to build a $10,000 website for you in trade. You can try it. In my experience, it becomes very, very difficult to get people to focus. But if it's small, discrete, incremental movements forward, again, we're talking about the concept of agile, right? Break it down to small pieces where you can do a trade, set some specific outcomes that you want to achieve and objectives. That's going to help you in doing that trade. But our network is our net worth. You know other people who can help you around. You know other people who can add to your services. But focus again on what you can do. Get small, get focused. Where can you have some initial success? Where can you make your business a little bit better? It's an amazing way to spread our resources, particularly when you're in the early stage of your business, where what you have is time, but you don't have a lot yet in the way of paying customers and clients. Bartering your services is also an opportunity to build value in relationships and start that referral pipeline. I got to tell you, when someone sees that, wow, you did an amazing job, you might ask them, can I get a testimonial? You want to do referrals? Do you know 3 other businesses that can use this particular service to solve this particular problem? Kudos to Kenji on solving all that. One thing I love that Kenji pointed out is what I call a cheat code. In this next segment, she talks about the power of leveraging her network. Let's listen.
For me to be able to be in business from zero to where I am now in like about a year and a half, it's all about networking, building relationships. I know it's like the old like building relationship, but it's like building genuine partnerships and relationships that are reciprocal. You don't want to be that person who just takes from people. You want to be able to get whatever you have, if it's time, if it's support, if it's connections. And that's really how we're able to basically scale up so quickly, is basically leveraging our resources and networks.
Yes, our networks are absolutely essential. Here's the point that she mentioned that I absolutely love. It should be reciprocal. Don't be that person who just takes and takes from all the people we know. You want to be that person who can give back. Even if it seems like it's not a lot to us, it can mean like a lot to another person. I believe you can build an amazing network of givers and not takers. That doesn't mean you're not going to ask questions. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have some needs that we're going to ask other people's to help us fulfill. However, when you're thinking about being reciprocal, it means you've got to give back. So make sure that you are taking time to give back. It is so natural for us to be consumed by our business. We're asking someone who's maybe amazing at marketing to give us help. We're asking for some coaching advice to be able to get us moving forward. We need some technology help to be able to figure out what are all the new things that are coming in that are going to make our business more powerful and be able to scale faster. And then when we get that help, honestly, it's easy to sort of move forward and forget. Take time to put your head up and figure out, is there someone I can proactively serve today that maybe hasn't even asked, that you see they have a challenge? And you can say, hey, I have a few ideas if you're interested in hearing what I have to say. Or has there someone who's helped me that I can stop, check in with them and see how they're doing? You may not be the one directly to help, but you may have a connection. We just talked about networks. It's who's in your network to say, oh, let me make an introduction. Let me go ahead and send that email. You will be amazed as small business owners how much we're willing to give people 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and support each other and help each other grow. So, how do we keep our energy up? Because we got so much going on. Many of us, we're solopreneurs. Every day we have to dig in and keep going. And sometimes it seems like a grind. And what are we doing? Let's listen to what Kenji has to say on this topic.
I also have been getting up in the morning with one of my girlfriends, and we do that Peloton app every morning at 6:30. And at night, we alternate our workouts. So it's like one day it's my day to pick, one day it's her day to pick. And just getting up and working out. And then I do like a 5-10 minute meditation. And I just give myself that time, like an hour a day in the morning, just for me, and getting myself together has been really helpful.
All right, this is so key. Raise your hand. No one's watching. This is a podcast. Raise your hand if you wake up in the morning and one of the first things you do within about 5 minutes is start checking your email, looking at your social feeds, doing all the other stuff, which creates emotional and mental clutter for you. For me, getting up and getting going is essential. So I wake up each morning, I go and work out. All right, let's be honest. I try and keep up with my wife who's working out and then take time to read my Bible, pray, meditate, walk my dogs, spend time focusing on things other than work, other than doom scrolling, other than what's going on in the world and the news. It helps get me ready to go and aligned spiritually, emotionally, mentally while the day is beginning. It gets me anchored where I need to be. If I allow my mind to start spinning, if I don't get my emotions settled, if I'm not really in balance and connected spiritually, the day doesn't get better. Let me just say that you have to choose to make some time. For some of us, honestly, that's going to be maybe getting up a little bit earlier. For others, it's going to be structuring that time. And for a large group, it's going to be deciding what not to do, what not to get involved in, because time is our most valuable asset as an entrepreneur. It is the one thing as an entrepreneur we can never get back and no one can lend us. And we need to make time for what matters. Well, that's all for this episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. Thank you for joining us today. If you want more insights, go ahead and check out our website at mkebusinesscoach.com. For the full-length interview we did with Kenge, go check out our YouTube channel and look for Entrepreneur Encounters. If you like this, please share it on your social media, forward it to another colleague or a small business owner. I want to help small business owners transform their hard work into hard cash because you are working far too hard to not have enough to show for it. Just like you, I can't do this by myself. I've had a lot of people pour into me and help me out, but I want to specifically thank two people, Kate Halfwasson for doing a lot of the editing and work to be able to pull this together, and Chris Crane for doing our music, both on the intro and outro. So again, thank you for joining me on this episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent Halfwasson, Milwaukee Small Business Coach, and I want to invite Chris to take us out.
Ready to take control.